Welcome friends, here is my marathon recap video. Sorry it's taken so long. I wanted to make it special because I feel like the marathon distance deserves a special recap. I race every month and I usually have like anywhere from like a 2 to 7 minute recap on Facebook, and so I just wanted to put this one on YouTube and go through my training as well as the marathon and post-marathon. And I know there's a lot of people that are curious about what a marathon distance feels like, and so here's a little backstory. I started running back in August, like training for races. Other than that, I have I have 4 kids, so I've been pregnant nonstop for like 8 years, right? And so I would run in between, but nothing like training for road races, and at most like 1 to 2 miles per every time I ran. So the marathon distance, even when I started, I was like, that's crazy. I signed up for a 10K and I was like, this is going to be hard. I've never ran a 10K before. Now that's just a breeze. But so I started training in August for road races, and I signed up. I made it a goal, my first race from, so just to put in perspective, it is it's July 9th today, and my marathon was, oh my goodness, was June 19, 21st. I can't even remember, you guys, but so I had not even a year of training to do this marathon, and I wasn't ever planning to do a marathon when I first started training for road races. I really liked the 5K, 10K distance, but I was like, I got further into just running and enjoying being outside by myself, getting fresh air. And it was around winter time where I'd seen some of my friends like sign up for grandmas, my sister-in-law that runs a bunch of marathons. We were planning to do it together. And so I was like, yeah, let me get a bib. And I got a bib. I ended up getting one transferred from me because the race sold out really quick. And so then when I started training, I had an 18-week plan. I followed the Hal Higgins plan, and I went for the Advanced 2 plan, which is kind of crazy because it was like, you should have a few marathons under your belt before doing that training plan, but I was like, I can do it. But I didn't follow just his plan. I looked at Hanson's plan. I looked at other long distance runners' plans, their elite athletes, what they're doing. And obviously I'm not elite, but I was following their kind of like their routines. Shout out to Philly. But so I was just taking what their training was like and then doing it with a lot less intensity. And I feel like it really helped. And plus, I have to mention this, before I started the 18-week plan, I already had 40 miles a week as my base for the last 2 months. So I was already at a pretty good volume weekly, and my plan was to top out at like 70 to 80 miles a week at my peak. That didn't end up happening because when I started my training plan, I had already been running a lot, and so then when I started my 18-week plan, I had gotten shin splints, and those lasted for almost 2 months. So like 8 weeks they lasted. I just had to bring down the intensity, almost zero speed work. And I still did my long runs. I just shortened them just a little bit, and I got through the pain. It finally went away. I had stopped signing up for longer distance races because I did try to do that in my training, is incorporate racing. Because one of my goals was to race every single month in 2026. So in order to do that, I had to do it with my training block, right? And so I stopped racing after I got my shin splints. I think I did 1 race with shin splints, and it was fine. I ran through it, and I shouldn't have. So it just lasted longer. By the way, the best way to get rid of shin splints is to not run at all and keep up with your strength training, because I really fell off of strength training once I started getting high into mileage. I got my shin splints when I did a 60-mile week, and truthfully, I think that week too, I did maybe 1 strength training session, And before that, you know, like 1 or 2, I don't know, I was not lifting like I should have. I wasn't doing mobility as much as I should have. And so everything's just a learning process, right? So that plan that I was following topped out at 20 miles for the long runs towards the peak. So again, my goal, I did want to Boston qualify. So my Boston qualifying time is 3:25. And if I would have been able to train how I wanted and get to my peak of like 70, 80 miles a week, I believe I could have gotten it even during, I'll go into the race soon, but yeah, so that was the gist of the training. It was 80% easy 80% easy and 20% speed sessions, right? And then, so I was running 6 days a week with 1 rest day. And so that was my training block. And let's see, when I went to the marathon, I fueled with, and during my training, I also practice with gels. I take Huma gels, and they have 25 grams of carb. And I really trained on being able to, you know, like open it from my pocket, the transition from pocket in my mouth, put it back. I don't like to throw stuff like on the street. It just is so weird to me. But anyway, so it became easy, like just take the gel, put it back in my pocket. And I would run with a vest. And on race day, I knew that I didn't want to run with a vest. And this race in particular, the Grandma's Marathon, had aid stations where there was, I believe, the first water station was 3 miles in, and then every station after that was 2 miles, and then at the end it became like every mile after that to the finish. I think to the like 10K. I can't remember, but so I did not wear a vest to the race, but I wore a flip belt. And so I had forgotten my emergency water that I was going to put at the back of my flip belt. And I was going into the race just relying on all the aid stations. And I took, I think it was 9 or 10 gels with me, and I had 1 left. So either I took 8 or 9 gels. I cannot remember. And so I tried to take them every 25 to 35 minutes. And so yeah, I ended up taking 8 to 9 gels, and then someone along the course gave me half a banana, and then towards the end someone gave me an applesauce pouch. And some of my gels, they had electrolytes in them, and I believe that helped. And the aid stations had, so I would drink the water, and then I would drink the Powerade or Gatorade, whatever they had there. It was, what was the temperature? The temperature, I believe, was, when we started, was in the high 60s, and it got to the 70s with like 70 or 80% humidity. Don't quote me on that. You guys can look it up. But it was not ideal to PR in or whatever. But I mean, anything I would run would be a PR, because I had never ran over 20 miles until that day. So yeah, the fueling, I felt so confident. Oh, and I brought the salt stick tablets. I didn't end up taking them because when I noticed that the aid stations had the Powerades and I was drinking it, I was like, I feel like I'm good on the electrolytes, and some of my gels had the electrolytes too. So, excuse me. So I felt like I didn't need to take extra like supplements to get my electrolyte fix. And in retrospect, I don't know if that is what happened to me around mile 19, or if it's just because all of these rolling hills that the course had beat up my quads. Oh, I forgot to mention, on mile 13, I rolled my ankle, my left ankle. There was like those traffic lines, the yellow lines, and in the middle, there was like cracks. And I wasn't even, so like usually when I run, on this course, unless like I'm on a trail, I'm usually looking straight unless I'm like kind of like sketched out where I am. So I wasn't looking at the ground when I was running really, and I twisted my ankle, and I didn't twist it like completely where it was like, oh, but you know, like, oh, I have to step off the course. But it was definitely like, oh man, am I, you know? So I kept running through it. The pain went away, and I was like, either it's nothing, or I just have a lot of adrenaline where I can't feel it. But coming up to mile 19, I started feeling it, and I started feeling my quads. My quads were burning, like just the pain that you get when you lift and you're doing your third set and your last rep, like rep 12, 13, you know, you're lifting like your max, right? That is what my quad felt like. And so around that mile 19, I was like, oh, this is going to be a hard last 10K. So my pacing, I should say. So from the start into mile 20, I was thinking I'm going to pace this at my, like just a steady pace, right? I'm not going to go too hard at the beginning because I don't want to burn out. So I was actually the only thing I was actually concerned about was gassing out, was like literally not being able to breathe. And just because I've had that before. My last race before that was a 5K, and I struggled breathing at the end because it was a lot hotter that day, and also I was sick. But like so that maybe, you know, got in my head. But that's kind of the only thing I was worried about. I definitely didn't think that my quads were gonna burn, and so my plan was to pick up the pace at mile 20, and that last 10K, just give it all I got. And that did not happen, because when I tried to go anything lower than a 7:45 or 8 pace, it was like agony. Like I couldn't, like it was so bad. And so I was like, you know what? I feel comfortable and the pain is manageable around 8:15, 8:30 mile pace. So I just kept that pace. And then towards the end, once I got to the last couple miles, I got into Duluth. It was in the town. There's so many people just cheering, and it gave me like a second wind of energy, and you could see my splits got better. And then almost a mile from the finish, I saw my brother, and it was such a surprise because he told me he wasn't going to be there, and I thought I was hallucinating. I saw him, and I got closer, and I was like, it's him. And so I got really happy, and that gave me an extra boost, and I ended up finishing really strong at the end. And I post marathon was waddling around, which is pretty normal, you know, if you give it your all. And the only thing that hurt after my marathon was my quads and my ankle. And so that really surprised me. Everything's a learning experience, right? And that just meant that so when I looked it up online, because I was curious, like what happened? Why did that happen? If I would have been electrolyte deficient, I think I would have cramped, and it didn't feel like a cramp. It felt like a burn. So I feel like all these rolling hills, they burned my quad, like they tore my muscle, and perhaps my muscle wasn't strong enough to withhold the pace that I was going, because when I would go down the rolling hills, I was going like mid 7s to low 7s, and I think that because all my like mile 1 to 19, they were all sub 8-minute miles. And I felt great. I felt so great. And it was just so crazy because aerobically I could breathe. I felt great. And then it was just my quads that burned. So anyways, online what I read is that you cramp if you have electrolyte deficiency, which I don't believe I had because it didn't feel like a cramp. And the other part was the quads, how they felt like they were burning. That means that my muscle was probably torn up if there was a lot of downhill running, which makes sense because I feel like that's what happened. Or I ran out of glycogen. And so if my body couldn't use glycogen for my energy, it starts to go to your muscle and burn your muscle. So I don't know if the glycogen was the issue. And I did forget to mention that I carb loaded 3 days before the marathon day, and I felt really gross. So I'm like, I believe I did a pretty good job carb loading. Like I felt like I was full, right? I was counting, like I usually don't count my calories. I don't count my food. I don't do any of that. But with the carb loading, I did, because I really wanted to make sure that I had a good amount of energy stored, a good amount of glycogen. And so I got all my carbs in, and even during the marathon, I felt like I was only planning to use, I think, 6 or 7 gels, and six or seven gels, but I used 8, and then I had the half banana and then the applesauce. So like the glycogen seemed like, you know, the carbs, I feel like I was good on carbs, but maybe not. And so I do want to, next time I run the distance, I want to, I mean, I can't carb load more, right? So I want to try to take more carbs during my, I want to take more carbs when I am doing the race. And I'm definitely going to work on more strength training on my quads, which is really, really funny because, man, like my quads are probably like my strength. Like, I think that that's probably my strongest muscles. Like, honestly, I work on my legs more than anything. And specifically, like, I do Bulgarian split squats, hack squats, hip thrusts. Like, I am on that. And so I'm just surprised that, given I had the shin splints before and I did have an Achilles tendon, like, that was giving me a little bit of a pain before I started marathon training, but that went away in a few days. So that wasn't even like an issue. It didn't last for months like my, you know, like it didn't last for 8 weeks like the shin splints did. So I was just really surprised that after the marathon, I didn't feel my shin at all, my Achilles, just everything, everything besides my quads hurt and my ankle. But so everything felt great in like 2 days. I was back to running, I think 4 days after the marathon, and I'm running again now, slowly picking up my mileage, and I learned a lot from the marathon. I'm really happy I did it, and there was times during the training where I felt like it was a lot, and I didn't want to stress myself out. So what I would do if I didn't feel good, if I felt like my body just couldn't do what was like scheduled, or like I didn't feel right, I either took the intensity down or did less mileage. And so I didn't want it to be something that it wasn't fun, because if, like, for me too, that's what happened during the training, is that there was a few days where it was like not fun for me, where I was just like, do I really want to do this marathon? It's a lot of time. But I was already super committed to it, so I was like, I'm gonna do it. But there was just times where I would question, like, oh my gosh, and I would just go back and be like, I don't need to stress about this. If I want to take a day off, it's okay to take a day off instead of just quit completely. So that's what I did. And so if anyone's out there training for a marathon, or you want to train for a marathon, take it easy, have fun with it. You don't have to be the fastest person on the course. The most important thing I think that I learned from it is just mentally running through the pain and just finishing, because that was one of my goals, is just finishing. And my top A goal was to Boston qualify. And I guess I didn't even mention, I think my time was 3 hours and 31 minutes and I believe 34 seconds. Don't quote me on the seconds, I can't remember right now. But I feel like I did really great for my first marathon. I never bonked, I never hit a wall, unless I never felt like, oh my God, I'm gonna quit. I just felt like, oh my gosh, I'm in pain right now, so let me just slow down. That's another thing, is like when I feel like I'm like I've never, the only time I felt like I was like, oh my gosh, get me off this course was a 5K run I did, attempting to do a 20 minutes, like sub 20 5K. That's the only time, and I was sick. So that's the only time where I was like, I'm gonna jump off this course. Other than that, if it's too much, like, it's okay to walk, it's okay to slow down. And that's what I did. I slowed down around mile 19, and I was like, I'm gonna finish. I'm gonna run through this pain. This feels comfortable, and I'm just gonna do what I can. So I hope that this helps some people. I know I don't think I replied to everyone because I had a lot of messages. I had like, I think, I don't know, close to 200 new people that I connected with on Facebook, and now, you know, are following my running journey, which I'm so thankful for everyone for support. And I just wanted to say, like, I'm sorry if I didn't message you back, but I hope that this video helps you. If you do have any questions, comment below. It's probably gonna be easier for me to see on YouTube because I have like 0 followers. But yeah, so I hope this helps somebody. And if you have, I like to post a lot of tips and stuff on Facebook, but I will try to make more YouTube videos here and there. And it's another excuse to use my fancy camera here. Yeah, thank you guys for listening, and stay tuned. My next race is a 50-mile ultra, and that's gonna be exciting because that's double what I just did 2 weeks ago. I'm doing it with my husband and a few friends, and that's gonna be really fun and a new experience. And I'm gonna try to document that one more because I'm gonna be running a lot slower than my 8-mile pace. So we'll see how it goes, and I will try to make a video on here about that recap about that race, and I'm gonna try to get more footage. That's kind of another thing that I was like, man, I should have got more footage on the marathon. I wanted, you know, I was like, now in retrospect, I'm like, I should have pulled out my phone and just like recorded some stuff on the course, but honestly, I was so locked in and zoned in. I just wanted to stay focused, and I never even thought about making a video during my marathon. So it is what it is. But yeah, thank you guys again. I hope this helped you guys, and I appreciate all the support and love. Till next time.